All right. Good morning, everyone. Thursday, June the 1st. Fantastic and fabulous to have all of you here with me today. And now that's on the recording, just reminding you that I won't be here on tomorrow, which is Friday or Saturday, as we have the summit. And so I have been guided to spend a bit more time in the power of decision today, and do what I did the last couple days, which is to actually read from it, to honor Raymond Charles Barker's words and have you hear his thoughts, his perceptions, his ideas on the power of decision. And there's a subtitle here that says, "You are measureless. The whole world of facts shouts at you what you cannot do. It says that you are a victim of the times. It measures you in words of success and failure, health and disease, friends and enemies. It is emphatic about your age, your life expectancy, and finances. It affirms you as body, bank account, and ultimate death. I am consciousness reverses all this. So we have the I am consciousness. You know this is not so. You know yourself as pure awareness beyond the limits of time, space, and measurement, yet functioning in these arenas with ease and fulfillment. Ideas create facts, and you are now idea-minded. Intuition gives you the idea. You think the idea. The thought you think causes subjectivity to create the fact. No fact can appear in your experience unless you have accepted the idea and thought the thought. Knowing this, you order your experience and live in its freedom. You do not measure yourself in the measurements of fact and intellect. You see yourself as a becoming process, as that which yet shall be. In the infinite, there's no measurement, for there are no comparisons. The infinite is your existence, and you encompass its potentials. And I love this because it also, for me, was this opportunity to expose more light on why people are so attached to their beliefs, meaning their beliefs then become a fact. And so that's why we say a belief is simply just a decision with a whole bunch of evidence. And so we can change our beliefs by making a new decision and creating the evidence to support the new decision. And so then we become more aware of the infinite that we are. Some people might be more comfortable with the word the infinite within us, the connection to divine source energy. And we realize that we are idea generators, right? We get an idea, and then we can make the decision whether we want to follow that idea or not. And the more relaxed, so this is what happens for me, and I don't know if it's anyone else's experience, but the more relaxed I've become, the more ideas I receive, the more creativity I see, the more creations I receive. And I've also been guided that I don't have to take divine up on every creation, every idea. It's just like, oh, this is a possibility. For me, it's kind of like, look at all the possibilities, Ranchelle. Like how many marbles are in, you ever played that game? How many marbles are in the mason jar? There's just so many opportunities. There's so many ideas out there. And we don't have to take up all of them, right? We can decide which ones we want to. But for me, the most important part of this is the realization that the thought you think causes subjectivity to create the fact, that no fact can appear in your experience unless you've accepted the idea and thought the thought. Now, that can be on a higher vibration level. That can also be a lower vibration level, a thought. So this is what we say, a thought becomes a thing, a thought becomes a thought, right? And that can be our experience. That's why people who have, I will use the words in terms of discernment, not in terms of judgment, but who have their glasses half empty, and they're like, things are always happening to me, right? Like they really are wearing their victim, what I call the victim cloak, and they have that victim mentality, and things do always happen to them. If you notice that, it's like, and they're experiencing it, they're creating it, they're experiencing it. So it can be tough, when they come into this new world of they've created and manifested everything, for them to accept, because it's difficult to accept that we are creating. It's easy to say, yeah, I'm brilliant and I create all these amazing stuff, right? That's easy. Look at me, I created all this. But then it's look at me, I created the shit show as well. And that can be more difficult for people to accept, that we're responsible. It's not our fault, but we're responsible for our thoughts. So really the responsibility and accountability comes in the thoughts. And if you grew up in what I would term a negative environment, if you grew up in a world where one's glass was half empty, it can be difficult to look at things with a new lens and look at the silver lining in things, look at what's positive, about things. And so that can be, it certainly can be a challenge. And it's a learned behavior, right? So we absolutely can learn a new behavior. And so then he goes on to say, at the center of your consciousness is a purpose, but not a plan. I love that. At the center of your consciousness is a purpose, but not a plan. The purpose is that of the infinite mind, aware of itself, thereby having consciousness. This consciousness is the purpose of your being. It is why you are what you are as consciousness. It has nothing to do with what you are at the fact level. This you have self-determined and experienced. Your real purpose is you as a consciousness intuitively directed by ideas, free to move in consciousness as consciousness experiences endless fields of consciousness. And so for those of us, and for people who are really concerned about, what is my purpose? I don't know what my purpose is. And they start kind of, at least this is my experience of it. I'd be like, is this my purpose? Is this my purpose? Is this my purpose? And the first time that I read this, and I actually forgot about this until I picked this book up again, was that our purpose is simply to be at the center of our consciousness. And then the plan, right, to live on purpose, with purpose, in purpose, will unfold, right? And I have shared before that your purpose might not be your career, right? Your profession. And if we follow this at the center, if we stay in the center of our consciousness as a purpose, and we have our career, our jobs, even if it's a business, how we're to create and manifest, how we're to positively affect our community will unfold. And one of the things I do like about human design is it does talk about one's purpose in the sense of, there's a couple of different places within it. It talks about your vocation and your desk work. It talks about your purpose. It talks about your ideal client. So human design is the first methodology that I've experienced that has addressed that. But it doesn't say go coach or be a financial advisor or be an author, or it doesn't, but it does talk about it from a high level perspective, what your purpose is, which I love, right? Because you can, and it's up to interpretation, which is beautiful because we have free will. And so we can interpret that in many, many different ways. So your real purpose is you as consciousness, intuitively directed by ideas, free to move in consciousness as consciousness, experiencing endless fields of consciousness. That's a lot of consciousness there. When you decide that this is what you really are. The purpose is known to you, and you perceive yourself as a continuum of thought and feeling, directing your experience world with volition. You plan your own plan, for there is no one to plan it for you. You select the ideas for your own experience, for besides you as the selector, there is none other. So we have free will. We have the liberation, we have the freedom to choose all of the things. And all we need to do, and I say that, you know, and I giggle, all we need to do is realize, right, that we are creator, that we are divine. And we ignore is the word that I'm being given, which is interesting. We ignore what the outside world is telling us. We ignore what the outside world is telling us. And if you're empathic in nature, or highly sensitive in nature, and I would actually add intuitive to that. You can feel the collective, right? You can sense what's happening with the collective. And so sometimes that can be difficult for us to remember the I amness of who we are, right? When you start feeling the energy of everyone else around you, or the energy of, so either you're like in your household or in your community or in the globe, and you start, for me at least, when I start to feel off, it's so important that I kind of tap in. Is this me? Like, am I feeling off, or is this the collective? This morning when I woke up, I just had this really uneasy feeling, and all of these old patterns of thoughts of lack and limitation came up. And I was like, where the hell did that come from? And then I remembered that the moon that's coming out is, I think the full moon in Taurus is Taurus that's coming out. And what is happening is old patterns are coming out. And so I recognized, right, that it's not me, right, and that's not my patterns. And had I not been doing this, it can be confusing, because I wouldn't have known that, right? I would have woke up thinking, oh shit, like what, like what's going on? And in fact, in my past, that's what I would think, is like, oh, like that everything that I had worked for was gone. And that's not true. It's an ebb and flow, right? So sometimes I'll wake up and I'm like on top of the world and like, I got this. And today it was like, holy shit, slugging through mud. I woke up as like a little bit grumpy. And when I was in meditation, I was like, okay, I just need to release that, because I recognized that it could have been my own, right, my own old patterning, or it might have belonged to the collective, right? And so then after my meditation, Karen, some part of what she's doing with the moon, and she messaged me and said that the group, the collective, was asking, and she's giving blessings of self-confidence, because that came up, right? And so that will come up for us, is this ebb and flow of life, because we are affected by the other energies. We're energy, and everything and everyone around us is energy, right? There's planetary energy. In fact, yesterday I saw this and I wanted to share it with the group, like an actual article, and I, for some reason, can't find it now, but there's something to do with we're being bombarded, that's my word. There is a nebula that's out there that's coming, had exploded and coming towards Earth. And so Earth we're not at risk of anything. But what happens is we receive this like a solar flare. So according to some of the people that I follow, we will be receiving this ultimate download to increase our DNA, to help us up level, right? And every time we up level as a species, there's it shakes things up, right? There's so the lack of self-confidence, or the facing your limitations, or people behaving strangely, we'll use that term of terms and discernment, not in terms of judgment, happens, right? And this is happening constantly on our planet, right? Because we're all energy and everything is energy. And so we don't go through life having every moment of every day like joy, everything is perfect. And there is this ebb and flow. And this is the important, I think, part of the power of decision is you can be in awareness and then you can make a new decision. And that doesn't mean, and I'll be specific, use this as an example. So the feelings that I had this morning of the lack of clarity and the feeling of the not enoughness, I knew that it wasn't just mine. I was in awareness that was the collective. And I made the decision to just go ahead and do the things that I do in the morning, even though a part of me wanted to crawl back into bed and just sleep this energy away, right? Because that's what will happen with me. I'll get tired when I'm bombarded with this and I'll just go to sleep. And I was like, no, I'm not going to sleep, right? I'm going to wake up. I'm going to do the things that I do. So this is the power of the decision. This is the power of having our intellect. I'm aware and I'm moving ahead. I'm overriding my emotions, not at the detriment of my emotions. So it says it's not trauma that needed to be healed, but I'm overriding my emotions and doing the thing that I'm being called to do, right? Diane, you took a 3-hour nap. Yeah, that would be why we were bombarded. I'll use that word, bombarded with a whole bunch of new light codes. And so we've all been up level. Congratulations, you just went up a level, right? All right, let me see. And I love this next piece. Do we have time? Okay, we do. True intuition does not deal with getting. It deals with self-awareness. It is not the infinite seeking to give you more things. Most of the readers of this book do not need more things. Well, I don't know about that. So I politely disagree with that, but they need a larger sense of self. And so I tease because, again, the way that this gentleman like writes is very like black and white. I'm so not black and white. So I'm like, I don't know about that, but I understand I understand the premise of what he's saying. They need a larger sense of self. They need to know what they are as pure consciousness. Only then can they make correct decisions based not on facts, things, or good judgment. These are for those who are not yet able to see that consciousness is reality and that we move as consciousness through consciousness, exploring consciousness and thereby experiencing consciousness. This is not negating the material world. It is seeing the material world as consciously, temporarily locked up in form. Isn't that beautiful? This is not negating the material world, but is seeing the material world as consciousness temporarily locked up in form, but never limited to the form in which it's functioning. And I loved this because when I started to read this book, and I was wanting to create more cash flow, but from a place of lack. Right now, it's like I desire more cash flow. I have things that I want to create, the things that I want to participate. I have my big, hairy, audacious goal of Costa Rica and a not-for-profit organization. And the truth and reality is, in this moment of time, as far as I can see up until now, cash flow is required for that. And if it's cash flow is not required for that, I am so open. I'm so open to receiving whatever it is that is required. So we're not negating the material world. There is a trapdoor in your mind when you open it by knowing yourself as I am consciousness. So here's, I haven't really said this, but I guess this is a time to tie it in. This is really also about using your affirmations, right? Your I am statements. and I am so happy and grateful now, that statements, because new perceptions enter your arena of thinking. They are not perceptions of yourself as you are. They will not lead you to greater outer accomplishment, though they will automatically follow. And so the important piece here is that we don't hang on, I'm just gonna be careful with my words here. The benefit that we're meant to feel with the I am statements is the power of who we are, the I amness of who we are. What we manifest and create from the I am statements is the bonus. So it's not the reason. The reason to have the I am statements is to feel how powerful you are. The outcome, the after effect, right? The bonus is the creation of what's behind the I am. They will not lead you to greater outer accomplishment. They will lead you to a higher level of knowing, where ideas are factual and things are not intuition, is in the process of self-awakening. It gives you glimpses of a larger life, a greater mind, and a deeper reason for being. We have lived too long in the belief of existing as well as we can physically and comfortably until death do us part. Intuition has nothing to do with this. It is God in man, as man, knowing itself as God, not knowing itself as man, right? So as you can tell, he has lots of sentences like that, right? It is God in man, as man, knowing itself as God, not knowing itself as man. Intuition reveals what you've always been. Its revelation seems new and strange, and he calls it the science of remembering. And I think I'll just pause here, because if I go into this anymore, we're going to be here much longer. But hang on, one more thing. It's when we realize how powerful we are, and we utilize the tools of the I am, or the I'm so happy and grateful now. We utilize different tools, whether it be the universal laws, our intuition, metaphysics as an example, meditation, prayer. We use all of the tools, and the tools are meant to support us in our desire to create and manifest, to live our life on purpose, to be in tune, to be so incredibly in touch with how powerful we are. And as a human species, we're programmed and conditioned to feel like we're not enough, to feel like we're missing out on something, to feel like somebody else has the answer, and we have to hunt for the answer, right? That it's just and certainly this is how it felt for me for the longest time, that the answer was escaping me, that I didn't have what it took to find the answer, that I wasn't, and again, can insert all the reasons. And as I started to really open myself up to the powerfulness of who I am, the thing that I've been seeking and searching for all of my life, which was success and achievement and validation from those who are important to me, love, friendship, money, material gain, all of those things became less important. And what I started to really see was that the possibilities of true abundance, the possibilities of true prosperity, the possibilities, and that my role here on earth, and I believe this is all of our roles here on earth, is to remember, to remember how incredibly awesome we are, to remember our sovereignty, our I amness, and that each experience that we have is an opportunity for us to either move through an obstacle or challenge as an experience, or be in the experience of the remembering, and that one is not better than the other. But that, and in particular with money, what I found was that I put so much pressure on myself to make money, and so much pressure to like have a certain income. And I'm in a relationship with Rob, but we keep our finances completely separate. So it was, and part of that was the singleness of my financial situation. And so even creating that, so I could say being in a relationship with someone who we kept our money separate, and then having cash flow that did this, and the extremes, right? The extremes high and extreme lows, of that. And the more that I focused on the result of money, the more that I just went down this spiral. And if I paused and thought, what is it that I'm really trying to create? What does that really look like? And what I started to see was, what I wanted to create and manifest was a community. What I wanted to create and manifest was healing in a different way, although I was very reluctant to participate in calling myself a healer. What I wanted was to talk to and have conversation with what I refer to as my reluctant leaders, right? Because I believe that the people who are attracted to working with me are leaders, and I believe that, like me, right, you might have been, or still are, a reluctant leader. And I started to see things so much differently. I started to see things that to let go of the time frame that I put around earning money, or how much money to earn, or in it had to be in a certain year, or a certain this and a certain that. And when my ego, like when the ego ran shallow, when I let that go, I had so much less pressure on myself. And I started to see that regardless of how much money I was, quote unquote, making, that God, higher power, divine source energy, always took care of me. And sometimes it felt like it wasn't, because there's maybe things that I wanted to do, extra things that I wanted to do. But when I really looked at it, it was like, it's all good. Right? And then I was able to let go of the pressure that it put on myself about my finances, because to me, there's a meaning behind it. If I didn't make X amount of dollars, that meant I wasn't a good coach. If I didn't make X amount of dollars, then then I should not be talking about abundance and prosperity. If I don't have a 7-figure business, it means this about me. If I don't have a high 6-figure business, or low 6-figure business, or whatever, it has a meaning to it. And what I started to see was the bullshit illusion that I created, the parameters that I put around that to keep me small, and to keep me from stopping me from sharing the truth. And so the illusion of money, so I'll use that word, I think the illusion of money does that. I think the illusion is that if you're not making X amount of dollars, then you don't have the right to be talking about what you're talking about. You can't share what you're doing, all of those things. And there's real conditioning around it. like real conditioning. And I'll give you another example that has nothing to do with money. When I opened my first Curves for Women in 2000, I'd had Jacob and in March, and we opened up July, the first Monday after July long weekend. And I was a size probably close to what I am right now. That's really interesting, Karen. We can talk about that on Friday. So I was this probably about this size. And so I'm like an extra large. Sometimes I might be a double extra large on my top, depending on how I want it to fit, right? So I'm fairly chesty. I have wide shoulders and fairly chesty. And I was really nervous about opening up a fitness center because I didn't look like, in my head, I didn't look like I should be opening up a fitness center. And my very first brand new clients, so we did call a fitness assessment. So my very first fitness assessment, the woman, part of the reason we asked was, other than to look good and feel good, why are you here? Like what's really driving you? Like what's your motivator? We called it the X factor. And she started to cry and she told me this story. And so she's crying and I'm crying. And we always had tissue on the table because part of what we often got to was what was really going behind their belly button, as my mom would say. And we stand up and I give her a hug, and she's this tiny little thing, and she's like draping her arms on me like this, and she's sobbing. And so I'm holding her and telling her it's okay, and then I'm so glad that she's here, and I'm crying because she's crying. And she said to me, I'm just so glad you're not a skinny little bitch. And so I started to laugh. And I said, I kind of, a part of me, and she said, I was so worried that I was going to come here and not fit in. And she said, you're like a normal person and you're a regular size. And I never forgot that, because in my head, it was the thing that I thought that people would want to join. And there was some truth to that. Some people were like, well, what do you know about fitness? Right. And so, absolutely, that was part of the experience. But more people embraced the realness of who I was. More people embraced my authenticity of the struggles that I had. And I had some before and after pictures, because I had, with Mackenzie, I had gained lots of weight and I had lost weight, and I was familiar with the whole gain weight and lose weight. I've done that most of my life, right? Yo-yo dieter. And it made me real for people. And I've had the same experience as a coach, that the being real with people has served me well. And I don't think, I'm sharing the story with you because I don't think that's just exclusive to Ranchelle. I think that people appreciate our authenticity. I also think that that part of the message is to not allow your current experience, what your current isness of your situation, to influence whether or not you should be sharing a message. That you're to share the message, even if you're experiencing part of what your message is, part of the solution. Right? So to not let your current illusion to stop you from being who you are. To not let your current situation to stop you from sharing what you're meant to share. Right? Because I do believe that we often talk about the things that we need, that we've experienced and that we continue to experience, and the areas that we can grow in. That's why we're good at what we do, because we've experienced it. And some of us have experienced it over and over and over again. And this, as for some of us, it's not the first lifetime that we've had this go around. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for spending the day with me. And once again, just one more last reminder, tomorrow and Saturday, I won't be here, but I will resume on Sunday. So, all right. Love you.